Hi guys, I'm Lakshmi from the Instagram account An Indian Girl's Journey. I'm a physician from India and I have recently matched into an internal medicine program in the United States. Hi guys, so today we have with us Dr. V. She has matched into an ophthalmology residency program at a university program, so that's a really good thing. So she's been kind enough to talk to us and give us some guidance about matching into ophthalmology. Hi Dr. V.
Hi,
So how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. So, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, about how you got to this point, and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. It's actually a really long story, but I'm
That's
going to
fine.
try and make it as short as possible.
Yeah.
I'm from India. I did my medical school in India, and then I did my ophthalmology residency in India.
Okay.
And while I was doing that, like while I was 6 months into my ophthalmology residency, which is actually a 3-year program
Mm-hmm.
in India, I happened to go to this wedding where
Okay.
I actually didn't know the people getting married, but it was in this beach town, and I just really needed a break. So I
Okay.
tagged along with my mom, and then there weren't a lot of people that were my age over there. There were just a few
Okay.
people, and I ended up talking to them mainly because my phone didn't have any signal. Because
Okay.
otherwise I'm really an introvert. I don't go and just strike conversations with people. So
Okay.
anyway, so then I met this person there, and then we ended up exchanging numbers and staying in touch. And I didn't think it was going to go anywhere,
Okay.
especially because he was just in India for that wedding, because he'd been living in the US for many years at that point. So he was just there for the wedding.
Okay.
So I didn't really think it would go anywhere, but then um, you know it did, I guess. And
Wow.
yeah, and then about a year after that, we were going to get married, and we had to decide if he was going to come back to India or if I was going to go over there. So
Okay.
we discussed both of those options, but then it just looked like me moving to the US would be better for both of us. So we
Okay.
decided to do that.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how I got into the whole USMLE thing in the first place.
Okay. So that must have been a really daunting decision to make because, you must have heard ophthalmology is really tough to get in the US. So
Yeah.
how did you feel about that at that time?
So at that time, I'd heard of a few people that had done it
Oh, okay.
before, but
Okay.
those people are all like in their 40s now. So it was a really long time ago when things were different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
wasn't quite the same that it is now, but it had been done. And so I was like,
Okay.
okay, it's not impossible. I knew two people who had done it. So I
Okay.
was like, okay, so it's not totally impossible. So,
Uh-huh.
I'm just gonna try my best. And I knew that there was a huge possibility that I wouldn't get ophthalmology and I'd have to do something else.
Okay.
But I really wanted us to be together, so I was okay with that.
Okay. So you were open to the idea of dropping ophthalmology and doing something else.
Yes.
Okay. And while you were, going through this process, did you at any time decide to drop the other specialties and focus only on ophthalm?
No, in fact, when I applied, which I think we'll probably talk a little bit more about later, I actually
Uh-huh.
I dual applied to ophthalmology and neurology.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay. So yeah, you can continue from where you decided to pursue USMLE. So I guess you graduated your residency in India and then.
Yeah, so when we got married, I still had like half my residency left still. So a lot
Okay.
of people were telling me that, why are you still doing this? You just quit now and go, because you're not going to be able to practice with this degree or anything. But I didn't want
Mm-hmm.
to quit because first of all, it's so hard to get residency in India, right? And then
Yeah. Yeah.
also when you quit, no one else gets your position. It's just that position is there, and that spot just kind of dies. And I didn't want
Yeah.
to take it and just not do anything with it. So
Yeah.
I wanted to complete it. And even like when I was training, even people, like even my teachers, unfortunately, there were a lot of them that were like, just making comments about how I'm probably not going to be doing anything useful with whatever they teach me.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty mean, but I took that as something that I used as something that motivates me, and I was like, I'm definitely going to show that this can be done, so that
Yeah.
you don't say this to anyone else ever again. So-
That's a really good sentiment.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people did tell me that I should just quit and quit while you're ahead type of thing. But I wanted to finish it, so I finished it, and we were long distance that whole time. And
Okay.
then so in India you finish your residency around May, and so I finished in May, and then I moved. I took the flight in June, I think, to move here. So right away.
Okay, so
yeah.
you did not start working on USMLE or anything during those, those months when you were still finishing up your residency.
No, it was impossible because, I guess nothing's impossible, but it was really not possible because it was a really busy residency, and then even on
Yeah.
weekends, for surgical specialties, especially ophthalmology in India, they do these eye camps on weekends.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
so-
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so we would be doing that, and I hardly ever had any weekends off or anything like that to study.
Okay.
So,
Makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah. So then you moved to the US after your residency and started pursuing it properly.
Yeah, so I moved to the US, but before I moved, like when I still had like maybe 6 months left to finish, my husband was like, you know what, have you thought about like what you're gonna do as soon as you come here? Because I had talked to a few people, and I realized that research is something that's important if you want to apply for ophthalmology. So
Okay.
I knew that I didn't really have any research to speak of in my CV, because you know how in India there's not a huge focus on that when you're
Yes,
in medical
yes.
school or residency. So
Yeah.
I had like a few here and there, but not anything to write home about, I guess. So so my husband was like, okay, so I already knew which city I'm going to be in because it was where he was. So
Yeah, makes sense.
yeah, so he encouraged me to like start applying, and I was like, oh, but it's not even done with residency yet. But then he was like, no, you should probably start now, which was actually really good advice. So
Yeah.
I applied. So I applied right then when there was still 6 months left. So it gave me a lot of time to like go back and forth with people. And because you know how long it takes, right, to get responses to these kind of emails.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So because I applied like that early, I was able to get an interview lined up. So as soon as I landed here, the interview was scheduled for like 4 days after that.
Oh,
So-
that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got the interview, and then I went and did I was so jet lagged.
Yeah, I
hadn't
can
slept.
imagine.
Yeah, but then I went and did the interview, and they offered me the job like the exact same day.
Wow,
But then
okay.
I had to wait because my social security number took a while to
Okay.
show up. So because of that, I could only start like 2 months later.
Okay.
But, yeah.
That's not too bad. I mean, it could be a lot worse.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So you started as a research assistant in the state where your husband was staying.
Yeah. So it was
Okay.
actually not it's like not exactly the same state. I mean, it's the same state, but not the same city. So I had kind of
Okay.
like a 1 hour commute every day.
Oh, okay.
Each
Okay.
way. But I really wanted to make it work. So we were like, okay, I'll take it, because you have to find like a university hospital, right? Because
Yes.
those are the ones that have the research labs and things like that. So that was the closest one. So
Okay.
I took it. And yeah.
And this was in which year again?
So this was in 2017.
Okay, and you did this till the research position. You had it for how long?
So there wasn't like an end date on it. I could have stayed for as long as I wanted. So
Okay.
I just stayed there I ended up being there for 2 years, because
Oh, okay.
yeah, because that's how long it took for me to finish my steps and everything. And
Yeah, makes sense.
yeah, and I didn't want to like leave that position unless I find something else. So
Yes.
while I was doing it and I finished my steps, I started applying for fellowships, because I didn't have my application ready in time for the ophthalmology match of 2019, because ophthalmology is an early match. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so
So
like,
it's not along with the other match.
it's not, yeah. So
Oh, okay.
you know how for the other match we like start our application in September, and then you find out where you matched in March. But for
Okay.
ophthalmology, you have to start applying. Your applications are due by August at the latest. You can even submit it before that. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and then you find out where you matched or if you didn't match in January. So
Oh, okay. So it's a totally different timeline.
yeah, it's a totally different software too. It's called SF
Oh, okay.
Match. So
Oh, I always wondered what this SF match is. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's for ophthalmology alone,
no,
or
so
there are other specialties.
yeah, it's for all the like ultra competitive ones. Like so, ophthalmology is one. Plastics is in that too.
Okay,
And
got it.
then it has a few other fellowships in it, but the only two residencies: plastics and ophthalmology.
Okay. So you applied for the fellowship because you had missed out on the date to apply for the residency on that year, in that year, 2019, you say. No, sorry, 2018.
2000 it's like the 2019 match for which you would apply in 2018. Yeah, so one
Yeah,
thing
okay.
was I didn't have my application ready for the residency in time, and then the other thing was also that was something I was interested in doing fellowship in anyways. So I was like, might as well just try my luck, and if I get it, then I can do it right now instead of waiting to do it after residency.
Yeah,
So-
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it also helped you with your residency application when you have already had a fellowship.
Exactly,
You know.
because you know how once you graduate, it's impossible to get any meaningful USCE.
Yeah.
And like when you do a fellowship, if it's a clinical fellowship, which is what I did, and it was a 1-year fellowship. So
Yeah.
it's 1 year of direct patient care, and you're responsible for all of those
Yeah.
patients. So and also you work with a lot of other doctors for your fellowship, so you can if you do a good job, then you can get good letters of recommendation from it as well.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
So
And I'm guessing the community, ophthalmology community, is pretty close knit, and mostly people know each other.
exactly, yeah, because there aren't that
Yeah.
many of us, so it's yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of
So that was a really good thing that I guess helped you.
yeah. I think it made a huge difference.
Okay. Okay. So, Dr. B, can you tell me something about your CV? Whatever you wish to reveal about your CV in terms of scores, research, your experience,
Yeah,
year of graduation, etc.
yeah, for sure. So I graduated in 2014. So I guess that puts me at the time of application was like just within that 5-year mark.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and that's because I did that residency and everything in between. So that's where all those years went. But anyway, when you say year of graduation, it's only your medical school that counts, right?
Yes.
So yeah, and then as far as scores go, I don't really want to disclose my exact scores because I feel like that might be a little too identifying. But when
Okay.
I met other IMGs, like when I was interviewing and stuff for ophthalmology, most of them had their scores were like either in the high 260s or low 270s, just crazy good scores. And by
Okay.
those standards, which is I think a lot of people that apply to ophthalmology, their scores are in those ranges. So by
Okay.
those standards, my scores were, I would say, probably below average for ophthalmology.
Okay.
And probably average like by other specialties, but because ophthalmology is the way it is, it will
Yeah.
probably be considered below average for that.
Okay.
And so I knew that because my scores were not, not like mind blowing, I knew that I would have to work that much harder in every other aspect of my CV. And
And that was a really smart thing to do. Yeah.
yeah, I think that really kind of motivated me to work that much harder, which I probably wouldn't have done if I'd.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I did the same with my my CV as well. So
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did the 2 years of research. So that was like basic science research, and I worked with animals as well as humans. And like the animal model part of it, I didn't have any experience with that because in India we
Okay.
don't do that, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was like a huge. It was a little bit hard. You kind of have to get over your mind block of not wanting to deal with these animal models. But I was like, okay, if this is what I have to do to get to where I have to be, then I'm going to do it. So I think that was really one of the challenging things that I had to overcome. But so I did that, and I got a lot of publications out of that. And then my lab was very supportive to where they paid for me to attend conferences and present.
Oh, that's
like
wonderful.
international conferences. Yeah, so that was really good. That added a lot to my CV, I think. Yeah, and then as far as my visa status goes, which I think it's really important, to discuss that. I have a green card, so
Okay.
I think that really simplifies a lot of things because you don't have to filter out like programs that don't sponsor visas and things like that.
Yeah. Are there many programs in ophthalmology that actually sponsor visas? I mean, you've met a lot of IMGs, you
Yeah,
say, right?
yeah. So there are actually quite a few. So there are in total. There's only like 100 programs.
Including sponsoring ones and non-sponsoring ones.
Yeah, just total ophthalmology programs is only about 100,
Okay.
or maybe like 101
Okay.
or whatever. It's just that many.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, and each program has very like few slots. It's not like internal medicine or something like that. So like on average, I think it would be like 4 or 5, and there's some that only have 2, and there's some that have like I think the one that has the most probably has 9 or something. But those are very
Okay.
few. So the number of positions are, I think, in the entire country are like 400 and something. 400 and odd, yeah.
Okay.
So, but there are some definitely that do sponsor visas. I don't know how many of them are H1 versus J1, but they're definitely there. They do sponsor visas.
Okay. And I mean, in your journey so far, you would have met other aspirants, IMG aspirants like yourself. So, are there a lot of them, or is it, a rare thing for IMGs to apply to ophthalmology?
So I wouldn't say there's a lot of them. Like it's definitely a minority compared with the total number of applicants, and even in that, there's a good number of them are Canadian, and some of them would have come here to do their medical school. So while they require a visa, they're like American grads, like they went to an American school, but they need a visa. So it's like a gray area there. So a lot of them were like that. And then the people that actually went to school in a different country and are coming, there were very, very few of those. And all of them had really good scores, or most of them, whoever told me their scores had really good scores. And almost all of them had done at least a year of research. Some of them had done like 4 or 5 years of research. So,
got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Dr. B, moving on to the next question. Is there something you want to say to anyone applying to your specialty? Next year and in the future.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are going to tell you that it's not possible. You're just wasting your time. Forget about it and just apply to internal medicine or whatever else people say. But I think it's important to just be realistic and to kind of evaluate your own CV and see if you think that it's going to happen. And if you feel like your scores are not good, for example, then you have to work on every other aspect of your CV. But also, I think when you're being realistic, you should also keep in mind that you should probably, in my opinion, I think you should always have a backup specialty that you apply to that you would still be happy to do. In my case, I really do love neurology, and I would have been happy doing it. I didn't want to do internal medicine. I knew that, so I didn't even apply to it because I would be miserable, even though I know that it's like a lot of people want to do it and everything, but it's just not for me. So I think that you have to find something that you do like and that you'd be happy doing if you didn't get your top choice, and
makes sense.
Apply to that, because it's not worth wasting a whole year.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a fine balance between chasing after something that you can't get,
Right.
at the same time chasing after things you really want. So
Exactly.
yeah, I totally it's a weird situation to be in. Yeah. And is there something that that is very specific to ophthalmology that the program directors look for in an applicant?
I think scores, as far as scores go, a lot of programs just use those to filter people out. So if your scores are below a certain number, then your application really may not even get looked at.
And what would that number be?
From what I've heard, for a lot of programs, that number is like in the 240s or 230, 235 or something like that. But I know it's not like a universal thing. Some programs don't do that. But I think in general, the average unmatched score is like 240 or something like that. But then after that, research is the second really, really important thing for ophthalmology. Definitely need research. I know that there's some specialties where it's like one of those good to have but not a must have. But for ophthalmology, it's definitely a must have, especially for IMGs.
Okay.
And then
So, yeah,
sorry, no.
continue.
Yeah, I think the other thing, like you mentioned earlier, ophthalmology is a very small community, so they like to see letters of recommendation from other people that they know, and not necessarily know personally, but they would prefer it to be from an ophthalmologist here in the US versus, your country, wherever you may be from. So because I worked in research initially, I got one from the PI at the lab. And then while I
Okay.
was working in research, I asked my PI if I could shadow some of his collaborators
Okay.
whenever if I'm running an experiment that I don't need to be there for example. So he was really nice and he let me do that. So I made some contacts like that. And then those people wrote me recommendation letters for my fellowship. And that's
Okay.
how I got the fellowship. And then, by the time I finished, by the time I was ready to apply, all of my letters were from doctors here. So that really helped, I think.
Yeah, makes sense. So you did not use any letter from your home country?
No, I did not.
Okay. Okay. And you said research is absolutely necessary. So, there are some IMGs who just want to apply right out of medical school. So you think that ophthal is not a great idea for such people?
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, you don't have to have a home country residency, but I think definitely you should get some research before you apply. And the reason is a lot of ophthalmology programs have this policy that if you apply and then if they either don't interview you or they interview you and you don't match there, then some of them will not even review it if you're a second time applicant.
Oh wow.
So this is
Okay,
not
that's scary.
yeah, this is not something that they announce officially, but this is what I've heard from other people that have
Okay.
applied, that apparently this is like an unwritten rule that they won't invite you if they've already said no once, which I don't know. So
Yeah, that's good to know. So my next question is, now that you've matched into a really good program, what do you think are the things that really worked in your favor in getting you to this point?
I think in my case it's been a series of events that kind of worked out. Like for example, initially when I was applying for my research job, the PI was looking for someone that had ideally had an ophthalmology residency from somewhere else, because the kind of job that he wanted me to do, there was a lot of interacting with patients, collecting samples that you would know if you had done your ophthalmology residency, and you had to do eye exams and stuff. And then there was some animal microsurgery things too. So because of my residency, I got that research position. And then when I was in that research position, I shadowed those other people, and the other ones that put me in touch or recommended this fellowship. So that made it possible for me to get the fellowship. And then my fellowship preceptor was really supportive, and he helped me when I was applying for the residency. So it's just been kind of being in the right place at the right time, I guess.
Yeah, I was thinking, and with the right people.
And the right people,
and,
yeah.
And just working really hard.
Yeah, and then when I was at the interviews, a lot of the feedback that I got was that a lot of people talked about how good the letters of recommendation were that they got for me. And so they definitely mentioned that. In fact, one person was like, that's the strongest letter he's ever seen. So I don't know what was in there, honestly, because I waved.
Yeah, that's the worst part, right?
Yeah.
Like you get to know that and then you can't even know what exactly they spoke about you. So, yeah.
But I think that was one thing
That's
that
good.
really, really made a difference.
Okay. And so my next question is there something that you wish you knew when you were starting out, when you were just considering this process?
Yeah, I think one of the things I wish I knew was initially when I was studying I did step 1 first. So when I was studying for step 1, I was like reading all of these review books and stuff, because that's how you study in India, right? For your medical school
Yes.
exams. And
Yeah.
I think looking back, that was a terrible idea, because you should just start doing questions from day 1. I think like UWorld or NBME or whatever it is. And especially I think with because the whole basis of USMLE is problem solving, right? So unless you learn to do it that way and then start to recognize patterns and things like that, there's no way that you'll be able to deal with the real test. And I also think that I hadn't done all the NBMEs, but the people that I met on the interview trail, there was this one girl that her score was like in the 270s, I was like, oh my god, what did you do to get that? And then she was saying that you should do all of the NBMEs, like whichever ones are out there, because a lot of questions do get repeated either exactly or it's the exact same pattern. So
Makes
yeah,
sense.
I think I wish I'd known that. I would have done all of them. So
But I mean, you've gotten to this point where you're really happy with where you
Yeah.
are. So I guess it doesn't really, it didn't really hurt.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the next question that I have is there something you regret? Is there something you wish you had done differently in this journey?
So not exactly. I don't think there's any one thing that I regret, because everything that I did, like sometimes people ask me if I regret having spent those 3 years doing my home country residency, because eventually it's not going to make a difference, right? If I have 2 residencies or if I just have one from here. But I think in my case, I wouldn't have got that research job without that residency. So
And that is what led to all the
exactly.
other things,
So it's hard for me to regret
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. And if at any time you want to go back to India and just start working there, you always have that residency to fall
That's
back
true.
on because-
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I definitely got like a lot of surgical experience and things like that from that residency. So it'll definitely make the learning curve much easier when I have to do it again.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a really good place to be at, to not have any regret about where you've gotten so far.
yeah, and the other thing was I think there's a misconception that a lot of people have that for IMGs to match, you always are going to match in the place that you either did research in or rotated at or whatever. But in my case, and I know that this is something that a lot of people do experience, but in my case, the program that I matched at, I actually did not have any connections to it at all. I'd never
Okay.
even been there before in my life. So it was just one of these university programs that you hear about it because it's a well-known program, but you don't ever imagine even getting invited there. So yeah, I didn't match at the place that I did my fellowship or my research. It was this other program.
But you interviewed there?
I actually did not. So the place that I did my fellowship at, they don't have like an in-house residency program, so it was not possible to interview there. But yeah, but this was like my top choice. This is where I wanted to be, so I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good to know. And so we're kind of at the end of it. Is there anything else you'd like to share, with the future aspirants?
I guess I just want to say that a lot of people are going to tell you that it's impossible, but nothing is impossible. So you just have to believe in yourself. But within reason, of course. You have to be realistic too.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a really good note to end this, podcast at.
Yeah.
And I really want to thank you for being so cooperative and helping out the future ophthalmology aspirants.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I wish I'd had a podcast like this when I was starting out. So
That's what I hope to do as well, because when I was starting out, I didn't have a lot of information. And to get this first-hand information with the voice of the person who achieved it, I don't know, I think that would really inspire a lot of
yeah,
people.
thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, it was great talking to
Yeah,
you.
you too. Take care. Bye.
Yeah. So that's all for today, you guys. I hope you liked this video and that it helped you in some way. If you have any recommendations for future videos, please leave them in the comment section. I would love to hear more from you all. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Instagram at An Indian Girl's Journey. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.